Irish fairy tales are now available at irishfairytales.com. We create beautiful keepsake kids' costumes and enchanting tales to spark little ones' imagination. Each book is sprinkled with cúpla so that parents and children can learn a couple of words in Irish together, and don't worry, they're written phonetically for those that need it, like me. These are gorgeously illustrated books and each have a message of bravery and compassion, and you can choose from either the mermaid version or the dragon version, or if you've two little ones you can get both and the stories mirror each other. And once you've read the story together, your little one can dress up in their beautiful wipe clean tale that are designed to be safe and sensory friendly, and off they go on their adventures. irishfairytales.com. Hello, I'm Stef McSherry, and this is the Mum Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the nitty-gritty of life, and boy, are we doing that today. I'm absolutely delighted to be talking to Jess. If you are an Instagram user, Jess runs for survivors. I've been watching this lady for some time, and I think she's so brave and brilliant at the way she handles her ex. So Jess was in a coercive control relationship and now has to parent, is court ordered to parent with this person who was coercively controlling her and tries to continue to do that, probably worse than he did before. And when you watch her Instagram, like, she shows the messages that he sends, and I get riled for her, and how she doesn't let it affect her or the way she parents, I don't know. So I think she is fab for that. I know that she is brilliant for helping other women that are going through the same thing to not get involved. You know, that one of the lines she came out with was that, you know, they hand you the firework and they want you to light it, and she teaches women how to not light it. Basically, don't get involved in the BS. We talk about family court and her experience with it, and just what a ludicrous system it can be. And I mention a case that's happening in Ireland at the moment. Yeah, it's a murky old world. So obviously this is very triggering if you have been in a coercive control relationship or an abusive relationship. If you are currently in one and need some help, maybe, you know, this is the time to perhaps take yourself off for a walk, plug in the podcast, have a listen, make some notes, and definitely follow Jess Runs for Survivors. I hope you really enjoy this chat. Good morning, Jess. Welcome to the Mum Mind podcast. Lovely to have you here.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
So I guess to start off, we better kind of rewind and tell your story so that we kind of know why we're here and what we're talking about, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll try and shorten it as much as possible. So I was with my ex-partner for 12 years. We were married. We had two children. In 2020, I decided to leave, to separate. I'd asked to separate. And that was in the January of 2020. It took until the December of 2020 for me to be able to actually leave. That was because he would not agree to the separation. He wouldn't agree to moving out of the marital home. So I had to take it upon myself for me to move out. So I found a rental, moved out in the December, and then I didn't get my divorce through until 2 years later. It was actually 2 years to the date. So it was literally two years bang on for when the divorce came through again. Through the divorce, there was difficulties, challenges, not accepting of the divorce, refusing to sign papers. I even had to get, so in England, you can get an enforcement officer to kind of like sit outside the workplace to serve the papers. So I had to pay for that to be done for it to actually go through. I don't know if it's different in Ireland, where you have like the severing of the marriage and then you have the severing of the finances. So they're two very separate things. So trying to get the finances sorted in the clean break, it was just impossible at times. And then
and sorry, this isn't because he wants to reconcile. This is because he just doesn't want to divorce or separate the finances.
Yeah. And also, so we had well, I say unusual situation. I hear more and more of it these days, where we had a business. So we had the marital home. We'd agreed on the home that was going to be sold and it was going to be 50-50. That was like, okay, easy. We've got that one done. The business was the issue. Even to the point that one day he threatened that he would sell it for £1 rather than put it through the courts and, have a financial settlement from that. So it was more, at the beginning of the divorce, it was more that he didn't want the divorce. So he was trying as hard as he could to delay it, to send paperwork. The emails that he would even send my solicitor, she even had to get her internal legal to look at them. They were that bad. It was, but I suppose in a way it's kind of validating when your solicitor's going, I can see what you're saying because I'm experiencing it myself.
Yeah.
But the finances have always been a common theme since the separation. That's always been the trigger point. So of course the divorce was the finances. Through the children, it was paying any form of contribution, CMS, school trips, uniforms, anything like that's always been a major trigger. In my case, it's finances. And it wasn't until, I would say, after my divorce came through, maybe into that next year, and then I realized that I had never heard of the phrase post-separation abuse. I'd never heard of coercive control. I'd never heard of the word narcissist. I'd never come across these terms at all. And it was only when I think I was like just maybe flicking through my phone, you see reels and things, and I saw something, and then I delved deeper into everything people were saying. I was like, tick, this is happening to me. So this is actually post-separation abuse. And then when I looked back on my relationship and the marriage, I realized that there was coercive control in the relationship. But of course, at the time, it just didn't click. Of course, I left him and I realized there was something for me to leave him, but I didn't have a phrase or something to hook it on and say, this is the reason why.
And I think that's really important, because I have a friend that's gone through this very recently, and they were going through mediation, but each partner saw the mediator separately. And after she had her session with the mediator, he actually came back to her and said, look, as far as I'm concerned, you've been in a relationship with coercive control, and I don't deem it safe for you to be in the same room as each other. But that was the first time, and again, post separation, that she had gone, oh, was I in that kind of relationship? Which just shows how much it kind of chips away at
tiny
you.
Coverts, just so subtle that you don't realize over time. And you think 12 years has passed. Think of all the little things that have happened. And then even now, there's even tiny things now where I look back and I go, oh, and there was that, and there was that. So I'm nearly 6 years on and I still think of things and I go, that's what it was. But at the time, I couldn't quite phrase it, put it into words, put it into language. Yeah.
So it's kind of like death by 1,000 paper cuts, really, isn't it? Do you know that you...
This is what I said to my husband. So I'm remarried, very happily remarried. And I said to him, imagine somebody every day, if somebody punched you in the ribs just once, it's going to hurt a little bit, but you're going to get over it. Imagine they stand you in the same corner every day at the same time and they punch you in the ribs, and they do that over a prolonged period of time. At some point, your body's going to collapse, your mind's going to collapse, because it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt, and and the bruise is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's exactly how I phrase it.
Yeah, that's how it feels. So did you, in your logical mind, did you think this was worse after you had left the marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I realised how bad it had actually been. And I realised, and actually even only in the past year, have I realised how much it stole from my early days of parenthood, even stole from my pregnancy. I didn't enjoy my pregnancy because I didn't realize, I just thought I didn't like being pregnant, or I wasn't maternal. Actually, it was because of the subtle abuse and the non-support. There was no support around me that then made me really struggle throughout my pregnancy. And then through the early days, you have a newborn, they don't sleep, they cry a lot, they poo a lot, they need feeding. You were just a milk machine, aren't you, in those early days? And team that with tiredness, you just think, well, this is what it is. This is just motherhood. But actually, you should have that supportive partner with you. If you're with a partner, which I was, they should be there to support. But no, so that stolen time where I, even 2 years later, I did a story about this the other day, actually, about when you thought it was postnatal depression, but in fact it actually wasn't. It was probably abuse. So 2 years after my first son was born, that's when I went to the doctor and I was like, right, I'm struggling. And they put me on citalopram. I was only on it for a year and I wanted to come off it. I was like, I don't really think this is me. But actually looking back, it probably wasn't postnatal depression, because it was 2 years later. It was abuse. It was lack of support. It was control. So all these little things that you go through, you don't necessarily see them at the time.
And I'm going to ask you, without wanting for you to relive it, but just because I think it's helpful for people listening, because I know there will be people listening going, oh, is this me? Is this happening to me? Can you remember any examples of kind of lack of support, or, that those little things that were chipping away?
So in terms of, pregnancy, early days with children, the major red flag was that he went back to work after day one. So there was no paternity. Got to where I rang my mum and I said, can you come and stay with me for a week? Because I can't do it on my own. Then he made a comment to my mum when she was staying over, and she said, oh, you've got a new baby now, things are going to change, it's great. And he looked at her dead in the eye and he said, nothing will change for me. And it was at that point that she went, and he was correct. Nothing changed for him. His life continued exactly the way it had continued. He expected dinner on the table at a certain time, even though I was caring for a newborn. When I had my daughter 5 years later, here's an example for it. I don't think I've told this story. I was in labour the Friday, and she was a very easy birth, actually. She was lovely. And I remember not being too much in labour, but thinking, well, we don't have anything in the fridge, so I'll do an Asda shop.
Oh God!
Online. So I'm in labour. I'm in the hospital, so the contractions are coming. I'm far enough to be there, but I'm doing the shopping on my phone. Then I went in at 7 a.m. I came out at 7 p.m. Like I say, she was lovely and easy. The next day it was too late, so I couldn't get a delivery. It was a click and collect. The next day I went and collected the shopping.
So is there a conversation? Is there do you even ask at this point?
Okay. Yes, there is a conversation. And the answer was, I'm working. So we had a home office and he was working upstairs the day after. So I might have told this. I can't remember for her, actually. So I did the shopping, and so I took my sister with me. So she said, you're not going on your own. So I took my sister, got the shopping in the boot. He then calls me and asks me to collect, because we passed McDonald's on the way home, to get him a McDonald's and a milkshake.
What does your sister say, just out of interest?
The whole of my family did so well to keep their cool, to keep their rage, but I think also they didn't want to not get involved, but I think they didn't want to either make it worse for me or then put something in my head that maybe they thought, oh, is it that bad? I don't know what it was. On my wedding day to him, I have told this story. My dad stopped me at the top of the stairs and he said, we can get back in that car right now, And I said, so even at that point, this is 5 years previous to me having children. Yeah, but a lot of people, when I told that story, a lot of people went, my dad said the same. So, and I just naively, I was 21, 22 when I first got married. So young. And I just naively said to him, don't be silly, Dad. If it doesn't work out, I'll just get a divorce. Not realizing, how that process was going to be, how post-separation when you've got children. But even my dad at that point, and we'd been together 2 to 3 years by that point. So they'd seen things.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably said it without realizing what I'm relaying to them on the phone or whatever before children. So yeah, he said that at the top of the
It's
stairs.
incredibly hard for people on the outside, though, because like you said, you don't want to poke the bear.
Yeah, or interfere or put a seed of doubt there that, yeah.
Well, and you hear of stories, where that then turns, you could have turned on your dad and said, hang on a second, mind your own business, my marriage, blah, 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 and turned you on him because, you want to stay in contact. You want to be that bridge for that person.
Yeah. And I asked him years ago, why they didn't shake me, why they didn't stop me. And he said, you were a grown woman, you had to
Yeah.
make your own choices and you had to find out for yourself. So I suppose as a parent, now I'm a parent, that must be the most difficult thing as a parent, like you say, because you don't want to lose your relationship with your adult child, because you don't want to be the mother that's sticking their oar in, that doesn't like the other partner. But in the same breath, I think I would just still rip them out of that. To be honest, I would risk it now. But
Yeah,
yeah.
hindsight's a wonderful thing. Can you, looking back with hindsight, can you pinpoint, do you think you had a little gut feeling all the time, a little whisper
Yes.
going, this
Yes,
isn't
all the
right?
time.
Yeah.
So when I think back of it, so my husband now, my current husband, my only husband, I've told him we're not getting a divorce. He has shown me what it is like to be truly loved, cared for, looked after, respected, and all of that. Previous to my relationship with my ex-husband, I was also then in a bad relationship, and that one was a bit physical as well. My ex-husband was the hero
Mhm.
on the white horse. He came in, pulled me out of that situation. So I think, again, looking back, I was still so young. I was so vulnerable at that stage.
Mhm.
Anything better than zero was better than anything, right? So I
Mm.
kind of probably rushed into that and thinking, I've been saved, this person. But again, they're very charming. They're very, and even little things now, like I remember only months into the relationship, the gifts,
Okay, so it was a lot of love
gifts,
bombing, what they
love
call. Yeah,
bombing,
yeah, yeah.
where at that time you just think, oh, isn't that lovely? This lovely heart necklace, these lovely boots, even paid stupidly at 19, do you remember when we could run our phone bill up into the hundreds? I'd ran it up
Yes.
to about £300. You can't do it now. You can put bars on, can't you? But I'd ran it up to like £300. And he was like, I'll pay for that. So when you look back, but at the time, you
It's
don't see.
overwhelming, though. It's
Yeah,
overwhelming. Kindness is what you think, and wow, this is amazing, and he thinks this of me. And it
yeah,
does, like you said, lull you into this false sense of security, really.
yeah,
And everything
yeah.
happening very quickly.
Yes, yes, very quickly. So we'd got together in maybe it was like the August, September, and we were moved in together by the December.
Wow.
So quick. And we'd
Yeah.
we'd moved in out of area as well. I mean, an hour away from my parents. And that's when it was a joint. I did like where we were moving to. So it wasn't like I was forced to. I kind of went along and went, yeah, this is quite a nice fresh start. But I suppose, I'll never know, was that a tactic to move away from
Oh,
family and
probably. Yeah.
support? Maybe. Yeah.
Well, and witnesses, for want of a better description,
Yeah.
people, because the more people that see the bad behavior, the more people possibly can call you out on
Mm.
it. Did anyone ever call him out on it? Did you call,
No.
like, I'm asking this kind of from an outsider looking in, did you ever call him on it? Or was
Yeah.
there, okay.
Yeah. So I would say the whole relationship was at least twice a month we would row, and it would be about, I now call them petty things, but I realize as a build up, they're not petty things. Like, when you say you're going to come home at 6 and I've made you dinner, can you not just be here at 6 because it's now gone cold? When you say you're going to pick up nappies from Aldi on the way home, why are you not getting the nappies? Because now I have to go out and get the nappy. Like, there was one time where it was my daughter and I said, are you going to be home at X time? Because she's got 2 nappies left. And he said, yes, I'll get the nappies. Aldi was right next to his workplace, so there was no excuse. He was late, so it was like then like 7, 8 o'clock. Comes through the door, and I'm like waiting for these nappies because she's on to the last one. Did you get the nappies? Oh no, but he had an Indian curry in his hand, so he'd gone to the takeaway for himself, not for anyone else. But no nappies. So then I had to rush out to the shop and go and get nappies ready for her bed. But if he'd have told me earlier on in the day that he wasn't going to get the nappies, I'd have just gone out. It's like with a newborn, I'd have got her out
Mm.
and got the nappies. He got an Indian curry as well when she was born. I think it was like day 2 or 3. My mum was staying with us, and he just waltzed through the door with a curry for himself. And I remember my mum looking at me going, has he actually gone and got himself takeaway for his dinner and not asked if you want one or even I want one,
Yeah, like
or
a normal relationship would.
Yeah, have you eaten today? You know,
Yeah.
you're 3 days postpartum with a newborn. Do you want a takeaway? So yes, throughout the relationship before kids, there was definitely things that I would pick up on. The relationship really started to go downhill when my eldest was born. So that was 2013, so 2 years after marriage, where I really realised that this wasn't a joint responsibility. This wasn't joint respect. I was literally just the cook, the cleaner, the nanny, everything, and I was irrelevant. His life was carrying on as normal, and mine was just to be stuck in the house with the child. So I called him out, said, so that kind of went downhill. My daughter, bless her, was a wonderful unplanned addition. So she wasn't planned, but she, you know, the world needs her. She's fantastic. So I thought to myself, well, when she comes along, maybe he's matured. Maybe he's learned from the first time. Maybe things will be different this time around. No, exactly the same. It was literally rinse and repeat of the first. So she was 2018. So then it took 2 years for me to, and I've said it many a times, you know, we need to break up. And there'd been many occasions where we've got to the point where nearly, but then something always happened, like his father got ill and subsequently died. And, you know, there was always something which then meant I couldn't enact the plan, you know, and what I wanted to do. But yeah, 2020 was the final, you know, I mean it this time. And I did.
And did you feel safe? Because I would imagine if you've got yourself to the point that you feel strong enough that you can go, is there an element of, I don't know whether he's going to let me do this, or are you not that kind of conscious of that element at that point?
So he was never violent. It was all emotional. So there was never any violence. It was all emotional. When you say that, when I look back, and I had this conversation with a friend the other day, I didn't realize that I didn't feel safe. And like I said, not from you know, he's going to put a brick through my window or anything like that. So I kept the moving a secret because I was frightened then that he would try and contact the letting agency and maybe ruin it for me or say that I'm bad or whatever. So I kept it the whole thing a secret. Even the days I got the key, as soon as I had them keys in my hand and it was all signed and I knew that it couldn't be taken away from me, I then secretly for a week just before Christmas started Facebook Marketplace, finding things, getting things delivered to because he wouldn't let me take anything from the house. I still never did. You know, all I took was the important things to me was my Christmas tree, the decorations that I'd collected over the years, and the kids' memory boxes. You know, that's the only thing that I took. Everything else stayed. So restarting again. So putting the house together because I wanted the kids to walk into something that was complete, not empty, so that they didn't go, oh, what's this? You know, so that it was homely. So I kept all of that a secret. But I used to shut the curtains. So when I moved out, I used to keep the curtains shut because one time I did clock that he was on the end of the driveway and I didn't know whether he was watching, whether he was, I don't know what it was, but I used to keep the curtains shut because I was terrified that he was looking in, that he was watching. I would shut the gate at the bottom after a while so that then he couldn't get onto the drive. So fearful in that sense of being watched and not being able to get on with life.
So sorry, just rewind slightly because so the kids are around 3 and
so
8?
She was 3, he was 7. Yeah,
7. And so you've rented this place secretly. It comes to moving time. Do you literally leave first and then tell him? Like, how did that piece actually work?
Yeah, so I think it was probably the next week. So as he went out to work, and as soon as I dropped the kids off at school and at the childminder, I would then go to the house and I'd be putting up the curtains. And my friend at the time was amazing. She came in, helped me build the beds. And so that's what we were doing in the school time. Once it was done, that's when I told him. And I said, I've got the keys, I'm leaving. And I did.
And what was the reaction to that?
Not a lot at the time. It was more, I didn't think you would go through with it. It's, again, I look back at it, the manipulation of, well, it's just temporary, you know, have a break, have a rest, you know, maybe keep
have a rest with the 2 children over there.
have a break. And then we'll see if we can patch this up living into, you know, when we've got space. And I tended to, at the time, go along with that because I thought if I go along with it, he's going to be under the belief that he's going to leave me alone or he's going to go easier on me, if that makes sense. So I was like, yeah, okay, then it's just for a bit of space then, you know. But then when he realised, I think it was literally a month or two into it, that it wasn't a bit of space. This was permanent. It was, because I put the divorce in the April. So as soon as the divorce went in, it was, I can't believe you're actually doing this. I would get up to 100 and odd calls through the night, just ring, messages, come back, can't believe you're doing this to me, you've broken the family, the kids are gonna have a broken home, all the stuff that we now know what they say. And I'd have to turn my phone off, because it was just not they weren't aggressive, it was the love bombing, it was the come back to me, to the point where I even thought at one point, shall I just go back, because then it's going to stop. That's the only way I can make this stop, is to go back. Thankfully I didn't.
And in those early days, like before you've ever put in the divorce, or you're kind of, going to family court or whatever, like how are you handling did he want to see the children? Were you?
No. So we made a loose agreement pretty straight off that he would have them every other weekend and one day overnight in the week. I offered more at the time and said, do you want them more? Because at one point they were saying, it was new to them. They were like, oh, can we go and see Dad? And at that point, he lived like 10 minutes away. It wasn't far. So I would say, do you want to pick them up from school, take them out for some tea, bring them back? And it was always, no, I'm too busy with work. So he was always too busy, couldn't have them anymore. And he couldn't even cope with the days that he did have them. He was, I remember one morning him saying that he didn't have any stuff in for a pack up. So I remember stupidly driving over with a bag full of food so that there was stuff for a pack up. And then that was the same up until April last year. But then he met someone and I thought, great, he's met somebody. He's going to ease off me now because he's met somebody. So hopefully he's going to put his time and effort into this relationship. She was just as bad. So not only was she an enabler, she really encouraged him to, and sometimes some of the messages I can tell that they've been written by her because it's a different writing style. So she was just as bad. Then
trying to encourage him to get back with you?
No, encourage him to be abusive. So encourage him to be abusive, to stop payments, so child maintenance stop. We had an amicable agreement that he would pay a certain amount without having to go to child maintenance, but then he didn't have any money anymore, so he's not going to pay anything. So then I went to child maintenance. I was like, I don't want to have any more conversations with him directly about money. So if I just go to child maintenance service, they can deal with it on their side, and then that's one thing I don't have to speak about. Which is still going through. It's now 14,000 in arrears.
Oh, wow.
But,
okay.
But yeah, so she encouraged and enabled him to be abusive. Like I say, some of the messages that I still receive to this day, I can tell that they've been written by her, because certain writing style. I can tell when it's an authentic one, when it's her, and when it's ChatGPT. You can
Excellent.
tell which.
Put them in the folders.
I've got it down now. And I do truly believe, and I don't have any evidence of this, but I do truly believe that the taking me to court for 50-50 was a joint thing between them. I think it was you should have them 50-50, and they believe truly that would then wipe out the child maintenance arrears. It wouldn't have to pay anything. And I have evidence, because I took the evidence to family court. The child maintenance service had sent me the transcripts of his calls to them, where they were saying, no, you have to pay it. This is your arrears. This is your legal obligation. And him quoting, saying, well, I'll just go to court then and get 50-50. So it was there in the transcript what he said to them.
If you can't maintain every other weekend and the odd weeknight, why are you going for 50-50? Exactly.
And so went to court. We was in court from the September 20, it was year before last, so what week now? 2024. And then it finished in April 25. So I had quite a short run in family court compared to others, because I know some of them go on for years. Kafkas had said, it needs to be questioned why he now wants 50-50 after 4.5 years. The children have been settled in this routine. Mum has always been the primary caregiver since they've been babies. He's been out at work. So they were they written me up. I don't know if you've got Kafkas in Ireland. This is the UK. They sit with the family court, and the court do listen to what they say. They hold weight. So it was a really good report from Kafkas. But then on the final day, it was a magistrate. So it wasn't a judge, it was three magistrates. And they went with 50-50, and they said, it's the modern way.
Hmm.
And my barrister said to me, she said, I will do this for free. If you want to do an appeal, I will do it pro bono, because I'm so angry at the result of this, because the evidence was there, even down to the child maintenance transcript to say, pretty much saying
Yeah.
the reason why I'm going to do this is for this, not because of the children.
And can I ask, did they ever take the children's, in this situation, do they ask the children?
They do. It comes down to, do they call it Gillick competency? So the age is 12, where they'll take wishes and feelings into consideration. But some children, if they're really, competent, they will then take them a bit younger. However, my eldest was only a month off being 12.
Okay.
So he wasn't taken into, his wishes and feelings weren't taken into consideration. Let's just say if we ended up in court again, my son would have something to say. So,
Yeah.
now he's old enough. But yeah, so they don't take that into consideration. Even like, I remember the magistrate saying something like, like my eldest, he'll be out, he's getting older now, so he probably won't even be with you at weekends, because he'll be out with his friends playing football. And I remember sitting there going, he doesn't even like football. You are making a decision about my child. And if you knew him, he hates football. He's
Yeah.
into anime and that kind of gaming. He's not a footballer. And I was just like, I was so frustrated. But since then, I knew exactly what would happen. I knew that, again, his life would continue. Nothing would change for him. And that has happened. The kids tell me, and I see it myself. His girlfriend does all of the school drop-off pickups. She does all the cooking, all the cleaning. He doesn't get home. He's out of the door at 6 a.m, doesn't get home till 7 p.m. So they don't even see him more. Now it's 50-50, because he's not, by the time he gets in, it's almost bedtime.
And does that make no difference to a court order? Like, as in, are they not supposed to be with that parent, not that parent's
Well,
new partner?
I've done a lot of reading and a lot of research into it, and yes, it would. If I went back, it would hold something. There would be something. However, it's not as black and white in family court in England. You might get somebody who would say, well, it doesn't matter. They're allowed to outsource their childcare to whoever they want to. Or they would twist it to say, because I don't have hard proof. I have what my kids
Mm.
tell me, and if Kafkas or the court spoke to them, they would tell them the same. So again, it will be a he said, she said situation. I don't trust that the process would be
No.
listened
And
to.
this isn't the
And
first time I've heard of that being manipulated, the 50-50
yeah,
thing being manipulated to avoid paying child
yeah.
maintenance.
And even so even now it's 50-50 though, he will still send me very, and I call them abusive messages, because that's what they are. They are covert abuse, for things like uniform. Will you pay for it? But 50-50 isn't just
Yeah.
50-50. It's finances, it's appointments, it's the whole head admin that you've got to think about. It's birthday parties, it's extracurricular clubs, it's all of that stuff. So it's down to me to pay for school trips, it's down to me to pay for the school uniforms, new shoes. He needed some new shoes last week, so I had to take him and get him some new shoes, because he'd asked his dad, and his dad said, ask your mum. So
Yeah.
the only contribution that he does is when they're in his house. Of course, he's paying for the bills and the food that they eat and when they live, and keeping them alive there. But everything else is still funded by me. He stood in front of a magistrate bench and promised that he would take them to their extracurricular clubs. My daughter's an amazing swimmer. She was an amazing gymnast. My son goes to Scouts. I don't know if you have Scouts in
Yeah,
Ireland.
yeah, yeah.
Scouts, I probably do. He's been there since Beavers, since he was 5. And since he got the food, he didn't take them ever. So now my son goes scouting every other week. So I'll take him when he goes. So he
Oh,
misses out on badges. My daughter, with the swimming, because she wasn't being taken, I then have to double it up on my week. So I take her on a Tuesday and a Thursday, but I still pay for the full month.
oh, stop.
But just so that she gets 2 sessions a week. And I had to drop her gymnastics because she wasn't getting competition ready, because she was missing out on the mat time. So we had to drop gymnastics, and she's only 7. And she'll often say to me, why am I not going to gymnastics? And I've just told her that they've got a leaky roof. I don't know what to say to her. Like, oh, the roof's broken, because I don't want to say
Your
the
dad won't
truth.
take you.
Yeah.
It must be so hard to let him have them.
Yeah. Especially when you know that if you put my feelings completely aside, the way that he is with me, the way that he controls, the way that he speaks to me, the money, every facet, if you just look at the children, what they miss out on is so much just by being there. And even just missing out on time with him, he's not there enough for them to have that quality time. They are just in their rooms watching TV or gaming. You know, there's no, as far as what they tell me, there's no family time, there's no quality time, there's nothing. So yeah, it's really difficult. You know, my eldest comes in, he came in on Monday and he'll go, come home, you know, and you can tell it's starting to grind on him.
You started to tell me, and then we got sidetracked, about your solicitor had said if you want to appeal it, I'll go pro bono, but you didn't do that.
Yeah, so you have 30 days to appeal it. And she wanted to do it. So then I spoke to my solicitor and I was like, right, straight away, I was like, let's appeal this, let's go for it. This is how twisted the system is. So he looked into it and he said, well, first of all, we need to get the transcripts from the court. So we'll apply for those. That's going to be like £100. I was like, yeah, okay, do what you need to do. The cost of just solicitor time. So my barrister was going to do it for free, but solicitor time was going to be another 15,000 to get appeal ready. Then he explained it to me and he said, so you're going to be another 15,000. He said, then it's going to be about 6 to 9 months before we can get you in front of an appeal, because that's how slow it is at the moment, the appeal judge. And at that point, the judge could turn around and say, well, they're settled in their new routine now. So because it's been 6 to 9 months, and he said, and you could have wasted that. And I was like, are you kidding me? They've been settled for 12 years. And he went, I know, but I need to tell you the truth and I need to tell you the risks of doing this. And then he said, and if you did appeal and you got it back, reversed the way it was, he's going to take you back every year. Every year he's going to take you back and he's going to find things to pull up and he's going to say she's doing this. I mean, the latest one on my Instagram, the funny, we've turned it into a joke now, is toothpaste gate, you know, him
Colgate.
sending messages about Colgate, you know, about, you know, not using, you know, so all these little things, you know, just using things to try and take me back to court. And I was just like, this is never going to end. Yeah. And I speak to, you know, some of my followers and they've been in and out of court for like 10, 12 years. Like it has never ended for them. So will I go back one day? I'm never saying never. I mean, if I need to go back and, you know, if it's getting to the point with the kids where I'm like, this is now, I've got enough and I need to go. But of course, I do all the documentation, I log everything, you know, but if I need to go back, of course, I'll go back. And as they get older, the courts have to listen to them more, the children, I mean.
Yeah.
But for anybody that's been in family court, and again, one of my videos that went pretty viral because it's so true, the stress and the emotional toll is just, I mean, it floored me for a year.
Yeah.
It's just, you wake up thinking about it, you dream about it, your whole life is on pause because it's revolving around court paperwork, documents. Yeah,
and these cases are happening here too. Before we came on air, I was telling you, if you have a look at the website bringharryhome.ie, there's an awful case going on at the moment between a mum based in Dublin, and she's actually ended up in prison because she went public with it when she wasn't supposed to talk about it. And in that situation, it's because the ex has a lot of money and a lot of power. So he is pulling the strings left, right and centre, and it's one of the most awful cases I've ever read. And if you can bear to have a look at it, because of the way it was handled by the court system, it's just horrific. Nobody is thinking of the children ever. And I was doing some research before we were talking, and I know Keir Starmer has talked about, in October, he talked about the fact that they were going to address the family court system, and the fact that, so more often than not, they say a 50-50 split for custody is better because both the children have a right to both parents. But now they're saying that's not necessarily true 100% of the time. You want to say, no shite, Sherlock. You know, obviously, if there's a coercive control or an abusive relationship, that's not necessarily a safe thing for the children. So apparently they're going to look at that. But I saw more and more they are awarding 50-50 because they're saying that one parent is at risk of alienating the other parent. because of the type of relationship they've been in. But when you think about what type of relationship that is, again, are you really looking at the children in that scenario? It's mind-blowing to me.
And so two things there. So a lot of people got really excited, and it's the biggest step forward that has happened in the family court system. So I'm not, dumbing it down at all, but people need to realize that this is going to take years to trickle down into actual, sitting in a family law case, because the policies have to be written. Judges and magistrates have to be trained. There's going to have to be a retraining on spotting these things, and before it even reaches sitting there in front and actually taking that new law into, not a law, is it, it's a motion into account. And I think for my generation, as in how old my kids are, it wouldn't even be in time for my kids. It probably will be, hopefully, if my children have children, God forbid they ever find themselves in this kind of situation, but maybe for them it would be in play then. I think a lot of people got quite excited and thought, oh, well, if I go back to court now, then will it be reversed? And it was like, no, this is going to take years to filter through. And then the second thing you were saying, I forgot now, you were talking about alienation. So I went down the rabbit hole with this, and years ago, this is why CAFCAS now don't use parental alienation. They actually use the term alienating behaviours, because parental alienation is just a theory. It's a theory written by an American man who's since died, and he wrote books on it. And then the courts in the UK started to use that theory in family law, when actually there was no evidence base behind it. I met a lady on Saturday at an event, and she said that the father, the child is 3 months old. The father has said to the court that she's it's parental alienation. And she thought, how can I alienate it? The child can't speak.
Yeah.
The child, So people use this parental alienation, when actually, yes, you can have alienating behaviours. You shouldn't talk bad about the other parent, but what you can do is validate your child's feelings. If they've experienced something with the other parent, allow them to talk about it, allow them to, give them the skill of critical thinking and say, well, what do you think? Do you think, what's right, what's wrong? And you would do that in any situation, whether it be schooling or clubs, and, they find themselves in a difficult situation with somebody, you would teach them that critical thinking skill and applying logical reasoning. That's not alienating.
Yeah. The reason I wanted to talk to you today is because I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and I think you handle the text messages and the constant gaslighting brilliantly. And I would love for you to pass on some of those tips and tricks, because I'm sure that took years to, not respond. Because I read your ex-partner's text messages and I want to respond. I get riled on your behalf. I'm like, oh my God, because it's constant, and it's constant second guessing yourself, messing with your head. It's just chaos. The acronym you always use, is it JADE? Talk me through that.
Yes. So it's not my acronym, so I'm not going to take credit for it. I don't know whose it was, but it's been out on the internet for a while. But it stands for do not justify, argue, defend, or explain. When you are fresh out of separation, especially when children are involved, it's a very emotive subject, because as a parent and a loving parent, you want to protect, defend, explain, and justify your reasoning why you're doing things. Because someone's painting you out to be a bad parent, you want to immediately rectify that and say, no, the reason why I've done it is because of this. I realised about 3 years ago, maybe 2.5, that's exactly what they want. Sometimes they will just throw in a firework and you've got the lighter and they're waiting for you to light it. They want you to. And what you need to realize is when they send you this stuff, they're bored. This is what they do. They want to create chaos, and then they send it, and then they do that and they get on with their day. Whereas you are fizzing, you are stood there, your whole day has been ruined, your mood's ruined, and they'll do it at trigger points, might be your birthday, might be Christmas. They'll pick certain times of the year where they know it's really going to get you. If you know that that's what they want, And then also think about if your messages were read out by a judge, how is that going to sound? Because you want to be clean. You want to be the reasonable, the cooperative person.
Neutral, yeah.
Neutral, calm, child-focused. Once you get rid of that, and actually Katie at the Single Mama Club on Saturday, I hadn't heard, I mean, I only check my messages once a day. That's my boundary. I will check them once a day. I'll turn all notifications off so that I don't even get a ping, so it can't even bother me. But she has a great rule where she says, wait an hour before responding. So even if you get a response, a reply straight away, you still wait an hour, because it allows you to come off the ceiling, calm down, replay it in your mind. But it's about looking at that whole word salad and that whole insults and gaslighting and criticism and all of that. Which bit of that, if any, do you actually need to respond to? So if within that there is a question about, something
fluoride in toothpaste.
I mean, fluoride in toothpaste didn't need a response because that's silly, But if it's something like picking up the kids for the half term, or sorting out half term holidays, or a medical thing, or something that is actually needs a response, just respond to that. That's all you need to respond to. You don't need to justify, argue, defend, or explain any of the word salad. And they'll try again and they'll come back again. I mean, I had a lady who sent me an example the other day, actually, of she'd applied it. She's new to the applying, Jade. And she said, that felt so liberating. This email was like this long from the other parent, and she literally just responded to the question and said, I have the passport, thank you. And that was it. And she was like, how amazing. How amazing. And I went, see, you don't need to they want you tied up in knots. They want you unpicking it. You'd be there all day trying to unpick their logic. So just respond to the only thing that needs responding to. Run it through an AI if you need to take emotion out. Ask ChatGPT and say, is this court safe? This is my response. And they say they, like they're humans, it might rephrase it for you. But yeah, Jade, it's all about, and there's another one called BIF, keep it brief, informative, factual. And there's another F on it, but friendly? Brief, informative, maybe friendly is one. So
but you can also apply that. I'm thinking of people at work where they go off on a rant and they're da 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 da. You don't have to respond. Like, that's our choice to respond. And with kids, look, I have 2 teenagers now. My 14-year-old will be sometimes blah 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 blah, and you're like, okay. You don't have to step into the ring with them, and it is so empowering, and it is such a better way, because like you said, it's not then affecting you. It's not giving them the result they want. I'm desperate to ask, has that changed his communication with you at all?
Good question. I would say yes and no. In the fact that it used to be more frequent, it's less frequent now, but when it is there, it's still the same wording, verbiage, intensity as it is before. What I find in my situation is a bit like the toothpaste thing. When I've won and I've just jaded and responded, not reacted, I'll then get a kick out about something completely random again to try and ignite a fire, like the toothpaste. I've heard this.
You.
So there's always a hook somewhere. But I mean, even with the passport gates, I still haven't had a response to where do you fly, and that was over a week ago, and they should have been in Paris at the weekend apparently, but he's not been online. So again, he goes silent more often now, so he uses silent treatment, which is another form of coercive control, and it is abuse. But he can go weeks and weeks without responding, particularly if I've asked about engaging about school holidays. How do you want to do the split? What do you want to do? That will go weeks without a response, and then it'll be a response last minute, and it'll be this is the way it's going to be. No, I gave you until X. So I always give a deadline, a reasonable deadline, and say, if I don't hear from you by a week's time, 2 weeks time, I'm going to assume this is the plan. I'm going to make plans for it, because the kids need to know where they're going. They need to know what they're doing. And I'll always get kicked. Always. If it's not his idea, then it's not right.
Yeah. And because we're coming to the end of the time, I could talk to you for hours because I just think you're doing an
We'll do a
amazing
part
job.
two.
Yeah. Talk to me about the running. And that's coming from somebody that has just started a couch to 5K, and I haven't run in 30 years. And
Fantastic.
no, it's not fantastic. I'm not enjoying it at all at the moment.
You won't at the beginning. You'll hate it. You'll hate it.
Okay,
So,
talk to me about the running. Go
yes,
on.
I used to run. I used to be a runner when I was married to him, but I used to run to escape. That was my escapism. That was my 1 hour out of the house. And then when I left, I got into weight training, and that was more of the getting the anger out, slamming weights around. So I've always then gone into weight training. But last year, after the court was finished in April, and then on my feed was all of the London Marathon, and I was just like, gosh, how just you watch them videos. If you watch those before your couch to 5K, you'll run faster because they're just so inspirational. And I was just like, I'm going to do it. That's what I'm going to do next year. And my husband was like, really? Because you don't run and you haven't run for ages. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it for Women's Aid. I'm going to do it for a charity. I'm going to do it for all of us that have gone through this. I'm going to turn that pain into something positive. So yeah, I've been out of running for years. So I started the training last year because it's been years, but then I broke my foot in Germany in September in two places. So I was out of action for 3 months. So this is going to be one of the greatest stories ever told, because marathon training, broken ankle, back on again. So yeah, it's on the 19th of April. We're 6 weeks away. Doing it in Manchester. I didn't get into London, so I'm in the Manchester one. And yeah, I thought turn it into something great.
Amazing. And yeah, like what a great thing to pour all of that kind of, because I do think if you can do something physical with all of that, like I said, I'm on your behalf, I get
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. Look, if you're not following Jess, please have a look at her Instagram. It's Jess Runs for Survivors. And I just think you are an inspiration at, handling this brilliantly, because I think, it's a shitey situation, and, you are helping a lot of women. So thank you on their behalf.
No, it's my pleasure, unfortunately.
Thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.